Pondoff's Anonymous is brought to you in part by McKelvey Insurance. Let's be honest, insurance sucks until you need it. That's why I fuck with McKelvey Insurance. These folks aren't just slinging quotes like robots. They're actual humans who solve real problems. Whether it's personal or commercial insurance, McKelvey works with over 30 companies to make sure you've got the best coverage at the best price without the bullshit. You're not just a number to them. They build real relationships. So when life changes, or your rates do, they've got your back. They'll shop around again and again to make sure you stay protected without ever overpaying. Call or text 618-623-0080 or hit up McKelveyINS.com. That's McKelvey, McKelveyINS.com. McKelvey Insurance. Quick solutions to real-life insurance problems anywhere in Illinois or Missouri. Guys, let me tell you about my good friends at Light Source. Light Source Psychotherapy in Belleville, Illinois is a small group practice committed to providing individual, group, and family therapy, as well as clinical and reflective supervision to those in the helping field. Check them out at findyourlightsource.com. They're the best in the business, my friends. I know them personally and well enough to tell you and put my name and word on it. If you're struggling with mental health, family issues, addiction, grief, you name it, give my friends Chaz and Holly a call. Their private practice is life-saving, and they will help you find your light. What's up, everybody? Pondoff's Anonymous episode something.
35,
season 2. Very excited for tonight's episode. We have the esteemed lead singer of Sandfrog, is it? Yeah. Is that what I'm hearing?
I thought for sure when you guys counted down, you'd have Sandfrog blaring in the background, but a little disappointed. Maybe you can edit that.
We did. That'll be our intro music this time.
Yeah, like maybe Face Down or Save Yourself would be a good one to play.
Perfect.
Right there.
I love it.
Or even,
I know
even dust it off. Dust it off about making bad decisions and dusting yourself off and coming back. Right?
All right. Dust it off. We'll do that one.
That's a little baseball pun too, right?
That's exactly right. Yep.
We have Mr. Scott Spiezio on the podcast today, and how cool it is. I didn't know about Sandfrog until we were walking in. Jeff's a musician.
Yeah.
And he's like, I didn't know these guys are great. He's actually a really good singer.
I know. I had no idea. And I pulled it up on Spotify. I was walking in. I'm on the way here. I'm like, oh shit, this is good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we had fun with it. I mean, it was
I
awesome.
bet.
We had, I had my friend Morgan Rose from Seven Dust. He produced it and played on 2 of the tracks and did some screaming in the chorus on a couple tracks. And, yeah, we had Clint from Seven Dust do a couple, solos. We had Rich Ward play some rhythm guitar for us. He's from Stuck Mojo. So it was
Nice.
kind of fun.
Yeah, no kidding. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I had my guys from my hometown, which were great. They're great musicians, and I just wished I hadn't have fallen because we were ready to release that And, the off season that we recorded in 2007, did the vocals after the season 2007. And then we had planned, I had signed a multi-year deal with the Cardinals. So I thought, well, we'll go play, if we got an off day or something, we'll play in those cities. Or if we had a day game, we could play, concerts afterwards. And I thought, man, if we could sell it at the stadium and sell it to like 10% of the people, we'd make a fortune, and we could donate some to charity. And I just thought it was going to be great. And then I kind of started my detour, as I like to call it.
Yep.
Been there, brother. Been there.
Yeah,
Do you still jam out?
Not really, not too much. Behind me, I got my half stack and 3 or 4 of my guitars. Every once in a while, I'll get on and start playing some. I wasn't a great guitar player. I could basically play power chords and drop D and write riffs, and that's kind of how I wrote the songs. Was just coming up with riffs on the road and starting to put them together, and then intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, things like that. And then I'd basically start, once I had that arranged, then I'd start like coming up with melodies. And then once I had the melody, I would hyphen it out with the syllables, and then I would come up with the topic and fill out the syllables. And I didn't know anything about music. That's how I did it, and that's how it worked. And I had fun with it. It was great to do on the road. It kept me focused on, after a game, I would go write with my 4-track or M-Box, whatever it was at the time. And I'd always tell the guys, hey, I'm in a band. I gotta write songs. And then it would keep me from going out.
Sure.
But in the end, it ended up catching up to me.
Yeah, as you're speaking musically, I can see Jeff nerding out over here. I know barely enough of what you're talking about, but I can talk to sports probably more than
I can't
Jeff
talk
can
sports.
music.
I can say that your style. I would never talk shit on Wayno, but your style is more my style of music.
Right, same here. I mean, I love what Wayno's doing, but I really can't get into country. It's hard for me.
Yeah.
I'm more hard rock, new metal, even heavy metal to a certain degree. I'm not like thrash metal. Some of it I can stand, but I usually like some melodic vocals in there.
Yeah.
If you got a little screaming in there, I'm all right with it. If it works.
Yeah. I was showing my 4-year-old the cover of Holy Diver by Killswitch Engage. Do you know that cover?
Oh yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Louis going to be a rock star.
I love Killswitch. I mean, they scream, but I like what they do. Now I taught my 2 sons how to, just play some power chords, and they both of them can play really well. And my one son, my middle son, he's in a band called Kangaroo Court. And
cool.
They've got quite a following. They're going to be playing House of Blues, or not House of Blues, Lincoln Hall in Chicago.
Okay.
On Friday. And and they play Champaign area. They play all over Bloomington. Yeah. They played St. Louis. They're really psychedelic rock is what they play. And he's a drummer now, so he can play guitar, bass, piano, and he's a heck of a drummer. So it's kind of fun to watch him.
Kangaroo Court. We'll
Kangaroo
check them out.
That's cool. Yeah.
Another baseball thing, because we used to have Kangaroo Court in baseball.
I definitely have been to some heavy metal shows at Pops after hours, like usually stumbling over from like Diamond Cabaret or back
Just
to
before,
and if I ended up at Pops, I was on one, Scott. I was not of my right mind.
Seeing Jerry Cantrell play there. He was the guitar player for Alice in Chains.
Yeah.
When he had his solo album, he was there, and so I had got to know Mike Inez, the bass player, and Sean Kenny, the drummer. And so I remember seeing those guys come in, and that was kind of cool to see them at that. I was on the side of the stage. Kenny was flipping me off, throwing hats at me. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, I was lucky enough to get to know a lot of rockers, especially in California, being in California.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to know their techs. And so I was always on stage, by the techs or behind the drums. And, I got to know Zach Wild. He played on the Best Damn Sports Show with me. He was
okay.
Wow.
Was guitar player, and Mike Borden, drummer for Faith No More. All the Metallica guys. I mean, there was times I knew Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam when I was in Seattle, Mike McCready, Kim Thale, you name it. Like I got to know him, or at least somebody in the band. Disturbed, Godsmack, Avenged Sevenfold.
Now, why is Eddie Vedder such a big Cubs fan? I don't know.
No,
what's the connection?
I think he was born in Chicago or something.
Okay.
Moved out to San Diego or something like that. But I don't know. But I know
it's a disease. Like Scott and we share a disease.
Right.
Eddie Vedder was born with it.
Right.
Cubs fan.
I just don't get Cubs fans. They just like to lose. I just hope they don't win, because I usually tell a joke about Cubs fans. I'll say, hey, for you Cubs fans, in another 108 years, you guys will tie me and my dad for the number of World Series rings that you win.
Nice. So you got that. Yeah, they can't. Well, they won't win again.
They can't. Not for another 108 years. Or
there you go.
A little less than 108 years now. But
how old are your sons? Do they play?
Do you mean baseball?
Yeah.
So my oldest son did. He's 25. He played at a Division. He played football and baseball at a Division III college called Williams College in Massachusetts. Very good. It's a great academic school, almost like a small Ivy League school. He played both sports, and he loved it out there. My middle son went to University of Illinois for a couple of years, but he was there when COVID hit, and it was awful because he really couldn't do much. So he ended up meeting his band there, and then took a year off, went on tour with his band, and then now he's finishing up. They're recording still, but he's finishing up his degree online through Arizona State.
Okay.
My daughter's, so he's 20. My middle one's 23, and my daughter's 21. She's in her senior year at University of Chicago. They're all real smart. And then I have a 10-year-old, and he doesn't like any sports.
Okay.
He swims, but the only thing he likes is fishing. So.
Oh, all right. I was going to ask. I have a 12-year-old.
Yeah, I've had to learn how to fish, and I'm not real patient, so it's tough. But
it's
he
tough
loves
for
it,
me.
So I do it.
That's good for you, man. I mean, I could sit in a boat and fish if I were drinking all day, but we take the beer away from me, I'm gonna get a little bit bored on the lake. I could nerd out about the champagne days. I wore my Illini shirt for you. I'm about 15 hours short of my degree from Illinois, which I don't know if I've ever admitted on this show, but
well, you're closer. You're closer than me.
I hit it too hard with some townies, I think, and my days in Champaign. Did you ever go to the Tumble Inn?
Oh yeah, the Tumble Inn was owned by the Herges, right?
That's right, Toby.
Yeah, and so Matt Herges and I used to work out together, and then he ended up he would pitch to me in the off season, and he ended up playing in the major leagues, pitching in the major leagues.
That's right. It's a big Cardinals bar.
Yeah, great dude. I went there. I don't drink anymore, and I don't really go to bars often unless there's a purpose to go.
Sure.
And of course, I don't drink. But we had maybe a year or two ago, we had an alumni event, baseball event at U of I, and so my buddies at the end of the night were like, "Hey, we're gonna go to the Tumble Inn." It shouldn't be that crowded, and it was packed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I went there for maybe an hour and just talked with them and stuff. Had some Diet Cokes and
yep.
it's a nice place. I mean, it's good.
It's a good neighborhood tavern.
Yeah. I remember, like some of the places that were just like Cams and COs where you walked in and it was beer all over the ground and
your shoes stuck
to
the floor
and it was hot. And
what years were you there?
So I got there August of 1990.
Okay.
I was 17 years old. My birthday is September 21st, so I was pretty young.
Okay.
So I probably was able to get into a bar, but I didn't go to bars very often. When I was down there, every once in a while, maybe a few fraternity parties, but not too many. I definitely wasn't a partier. I was there to play baseball and to get out in 3 years.
When did you and talk a little sports a bit? I won't nerd out on it too much. But when did you know that you had it?
Well, my dad played in the major league for 9 years and went to 3 World Series and won 2 with the Cardinals. And he retired when he was 30.
Really? Wow.
Young age, yeah. He could have kept playing, but there just wasn't that much money in the game. And so he had opened a furniture store in Morris, Illinois, where I'm at now.
Sure.
And he's still here too and still owns that building.
Really?
There's no furniture store anymore. We still have the building and he rents out spaces. There still is furniture in the one section though. We just we'll only do it by like appointment until it's all gone. Eventually I think he'll rent it out. But as far as when I knew, I mean, my dad had always told me I have what it takes. We practice all the time. I think a few different times I thought that I could compete with some really good players. One time was like when I was a sophomore and there was a bunch of scouts watching a senior from like Geneva, Illinois pitch. And I was 2 for 2 off him and hit a ball off his back that landed by the dugout. And they had to actually bring an ambulance to the mound to pull him off. And then I was in the Olympic Festival. The summer before I went to the University of Illinois, I was in the Olympic Festival, which was in Minnesota. And like guys like Shaq were there. Jim Jackson, who was a player for Ohio State, great basketball. Those 2 were on a team there. So it was like all the best athletes. Sean Green was there. Brooks Kiesnick. There was Jay Powell. There was a bunch of guys that ended up being major leaguers. And my team won, the North team won. And then I got picked. There was 2 other guys from the University of Illinois that was on that team. And we won on the North team. And then those guys went back to, went to start school as freshmen. And I got picked for the USA junior team and went to Cuba to play in the World Championships with all those guys I just talked about. So we had a stacked roster. And I did really well against those guys, guys throwing, 95 to 100 miles an hour, at age 17. And I was hitting, well above 300, both in the Olympic Festival and the USA Junior World Championships. So after that, and then, having success at University of Illinois against some incredible teams, I felt like I could definitely compete at the highest level.
Was it the experience like in Cuba? Was that a job to you, or were you able to in the moment kind of understand what you were participating in? And I know some guys. I've talked to some athletes. You're our second professional athlete that's been on the show. Third, if you include Goldberg from the Mighty Ducks, but he was an actor. Cam Jansen came on, who I grew up playing hockey with, and when you're that good, it's a job. It's a job. But you also love the game, right? I mean, more than you kind of have to be obsessed with it, addicted to it, if you will.
Yeah, you're definitely addicted to it. I mean, my dad, we practiced all the time, but my dad tried to make it fun. There were some times that, I'd want to be playing with my friends, but my dad would always remind me like, hey, you might have to work hard now, but it makes the games more fun. And if you work hard now, you can play a game later. instead of those guys, they're going to have a real job later, you know?
Yeah.
And so I always remember that. Like, he'd always be like, "Do you want to dig ditches?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to. I don't want to dig ditches." You know, and he's like, "Well, you're either going to be a valedictorian or you're going to be a major leaguer. You pick." And I'm like, "I pick major leaguer."
Sure.
Like, you know, my sister my older sister was valedictorian. You know, and my younger sister, I think, was the salutatorian or salutatorian or however you say it. But I just, you know,
you got the athleticism.
Yeah, I mean, they were athletes too, but my love was baseball, and I loved it. And I hated if I saw rain clouds coming out.
Oh boy, yeah,
that we were going to get rained out. I enjoyed practicing with my dad. You know, it was fun. Usually, if I worked hard, I get to go get a chocolate shake somewhere afterwards, and so yeah, you know, in the Olympic Festival and the Junior Championships in Cuba, they definitely weren't work. I mean, it was an honor to be picked,
sure,
you know, to represent your country, and then to go and have the eye-opening experience of seeing like the poverty in Cuba,
right.
And like it made me appreciate the United States so much more. To be able to live here and not have to wait in line for gas or, you know, or food or, you know, all those other things. So it was really cool to see what I was going to be facing. Cause I remember going to, you know, old timers games or reunions with my dad and seeing guys like, you know, Bob Gibson or Lou Brock or Sam Musial. And those guys saying, "Hey, it's easy to get to big leagues. It's hard to stay there."
Sure.
You know, you're not competing against the guys from your hometown. You're competing against the guys from Cuba and Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic and Venezuela. And now you can add Japan and South Korea and, you know, all those other countries. And so like when I saw that, I realized that the only way for these kids to get out of this situation is to be good in baseball. And so they worked their butt off. So my mindset was always, I got to outwork them. You know, if I don't outwork them, there's no way I can get there. And so that I'd always put my goals on a piece of paper, tape it in my headboard every year and say, "God, you know, keep me healthy, keep my family healthy. Let me make it to the major leagues, play 10 years, win a World Series," you know. And I always joke around saying I should have prayed for 20 years, you know, 3 World Series, 5 World Series, 5 MVP awards, you know, a couple Silver Sluggers. But then I'd look at my headboard and I say, after I prayed, like, what did I do today that got me closer to those goals? If I didn't do anything, then I'd work doubly hard because I wanted to think that I was outworking everybody in the world.
I mean, that's an incredible perspective to have at a young age that these kids from Cuba are playing maybe life and death's on the line to get out of their living situation and play baseball. And you got to work as hard as they are. And that reminder, I mean, that's got to be that's super mature and wise for a young guy to take.
And I think, you know, with my dad, he had played in Venezuela and in Dominican Republic. I think that, you know, he reminded me of that. Like, observe what you see down there, see how they have it versus you, see why their hands are so good. You know, they're playing in cow pastures, you know, with bad bounces, and they're using a piece of cardboard for a glove. You know, so your hands better. When you're complaining about your glove, remember, some people don't even have a glove, you know, and they're taking BP with bottle caps and a tree branch, you know,
nice.
Or I saw a kid playing with a doll's head, you know, like they pulled a doll's head right off. We're using that as a baseball. So, like it was great to have him kind of. I had somebody tell me that it's kind of like having somebody with the cheat code, you know, in video games. He'd be like, "Hey, you know, this is going to happen. This is what you got to watch out for." And boom, that's what happened. And and so I would be prepared for it instead of like surprised by things.
You know what I hear you saying there that's pretty cool is that you're crediting your dad's wisdom, like more than just his raw talent of being a major leaguer, but his wisdom. And I mean, I really connect with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. He not only taught me the physical game and things to expect, but he trained me in the mental game too. So
sure.
At 10, 11, 12 years old, I knew how to visualize. I knew how to control my breathing. I'd visualize every game the night before. I knew the difference between subconscious and conscious thought. I knew how powerful your subconscious mind was. And so I had a big advantage to a lot of kids. I knew how to have clear keys when negative things would pop up. My visualization got so good that I could see from different angles and super slow-mo, pinpoint things. And by the time I got to the big leagues, like I had mastered that, and then I kept working on it. I worked on it all the way up until, my last year.
What year did you retire from the majors?
Well, I'm still not retired.
Oh, all right. We'll put that in the show notes if any scouts are.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm four hits away from 1,000 in my career. So a few years back when Joe Madden was still with the Angels, I said, "Hey man, you guys are hitting 198 in May. You think you could bring me up for a game and I could get my 1,000th hit?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, that would be great." And then he got fired.
So oh shit!
I'm like, dang it. I don't think it would have happened.
I don't know, man. I'm thinking of the lot of empty seats at Busch this year that might have bought a ticket to see you in the lineup. And I don't know if you could have done much worse. They were struggling this year at the plate.
Let's do it. So yeah, the serious answer was, the last time I played in a major league game, I actually have the bat right here. It was September. I think my last game was in Pittsburgh. End of the year in 2007. I think I went 2 for 4 with a home run and another hit. I think my last at bat might have been a home run. I didn't know that was my last game.
Sure.
But that's the year that I came to the Angels or to the Cardinals and told them that I had a problem. They kind of already knew stuff was going on, but I was still maintaining a pretty good year. And so, they let me keep playing, and then I had passed out one game, and I woke up with IVs in the training room. And
oh, really?
Yeah, and I pulled them out, and I was scared because I didn't want anybody to know. And then I went home, and then when I came back, they're like, "We got to have a talk." And
sure.
So I had a talk with Walt Jockety, our GM, and our manager Tony La Russa, and they're like, "Well, we got to get you help," and so they sent me to rehab, but it was outpatient, like in St. Charles, which is not too far from St. Louis. And I learned some stuff, but I was very hesitant to be open. It was supposed to kind of be an undercover thing. They were going to put me on the DL for my finger and not tell anybody, but it leaked out and it got all over the media before I even went to rehab. So it was a mess. I know Tony and Walt were really upset about that. We still don't know how it leaked. But then I just basically sat there all day and listened to them. And then after 28 days, I went and I was back in the lineup. So,
that was an outpatient.
That was an outpatient. Yeah. Center Point.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple guests ago, we're familiar with them. We opened we're at Illinois Recovery Center in Swansea, right across the river, serve the metro whole St. Louis area. And really we've had people from Michigan, Florida. So a lot of people have to get out of their normal environment and we'll get people on a one-way ticket here. We'll send people that come here that need to get out to some reputable quality places that we have contacts with in New Jersey and a couple in Florida and Pennsylvania. So,
yeah, the problem is, and I've went to rehabs that aren't too far from my own town. I don't think that's necessarily an issue, but like we had just won the World Series and everybody knew who I was. So it was I should have been your roommate. I remember 2007
I remember your triple. I was at an Elks Lodge with my grandma drinking, and to keep us in the race, you hit a triple down the right field line, and anytime I bring up that Scott Spiezio is coming on the podcast, I've been like loving it. Been excited about it. People are like, does he still have the red soul patch? I'm like, you'll have to tune in and find out. But
that's what I was going to say. You walk into rehab in St. Charles with a red soul patch. I think people are going to maybe know who you are.
I think I can't remember. I think I tried washing it out because I would diet every day.
Okay. Oh, really?
But it was semi-permanent, so I'm sure it was still there. And I think I used an alias, and I just tried to like keep to myself. I figured, like, to me, nobody in my family had ever dealt with addiction or alcoholism. So
really,
I thought, okay, if you go to rehab, then you're cured. So you just go, you sit through it, you listen, and then you go back and you're done. So I went, they said, that's what I'm doing. So I went, I listened, I didn't, part of therapy and rehab and AA is sharing your experience and talking and being vulnerable. Well, I wasn't going to do that. It was very hard for me to get past step one. I could say that even at that time, I couldn't, like, it would be hard for me to say that my life was unmanageable, even though it was. I was still doing some amazing things, still hitting 270 at the big league level.
Yeah.
Contributing.
That's an all-star now, 270.
Right. So, I mean, and that's with, sometimes as much as a handle or more of vodka a day, staying up sometimes, 5-6 days in a row playing at the major league level. Like, it's very hard to do. So, like, I always thought I'm different than everybody else. So to say my life was become unmanageable and then I'm powerless over alcohol, no way. I wasn't powerless over anything. Everybody told me I couldn't make it. I couldn't put an album out. I couldn't, so I couldn't make it to the big leagues. I proved them wrong. I couldn't, have a band and put an album out. I proved them wrong. Pretty much anything I wanted to do, I could do as long as I bear down. So
that's interesting.
When you can't get past, and plus, the subliminal stuff, my dad would play, all these subliminal messages. The driving purpose of a winner flows through your body. You are great. You are a champion. There's no limit to your strength, power, or quickness. You have more than enough to win every game. Like, I was very confident. Not that I was cocky, but I was confident. Like, I'm built different. I can do things that other people can't because I'm strong mentally. I can, so that goes right up again, like classes with
completely. That's, I keep thinking about how you've defied these odds, right? I mean, the percentage of even really big time good collegiate ball players that make it to the show is like less than one, I think. I mean, you defied the odds there to playing music. So when somebody, it's got to imagine that kind of impacts our ability to listen when we got something, a problem that we can't just fix on our own.
And
when you said you're going to the outpatient, I was going to ask you, do you think you were ready? And I think it sounds like you may have answered that not even close. But the second point, to do it under an alias or trying to be low key really does take away your ability to share and be vulnerable and open. And that's got to be a really hard environment to get sober in.
Yeah, well, I didn't know anything about it. And so, and plus I was vulnerable. Like, I did not want to tell the Cardinals. I know that some of my teammates had reached out to my dad.
Really?
Who we had a strained relationship at that time, didn't talk for like a year and a half or so.
Wow. That's
because I got divorced and that I wasn't used to that because I talked to him all the time. And a lot, it strained the family. So I wasn't, we were a real close-knit family. And then that kind of, me getting divorced and, starting to drink a lot with Seattle after my injury there. That's kind of what started, I didn't even hardly drink until 2004 when I got injured in spring training. That's when I started drinking. And then
I was going to ask you because you had mentioned, if you weren't weren't seeking out cams and COs and champagne, then it didn't seem like you not drinking in college. It seemed like you were a late bloomer, and I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So, I was the dare guy, like in my hometown here when I was in high school. I go to
really.
So yeah, it was always one of those things. I remember somebody speaking to us and saying, "Show me your friends, I'll show you your future." And like I took that to heart. Like I was friends with everybody, but I wouldn't hang out with everybody because if they were doing some crazy stuff, I wouldn't be around. And so everybody kind of respected that. They would like almost shelter me from some of that stuff. Even some of the band guys when I got to the big leagues, those guys were doing hardcore drugs and drinking.
Yeah.
They might ask if I wanted a shot. I might do one here and there. A lot of times I'd just be sipping a beer and that was it. I really didn't like the taste of alcohol. All through college, I talked to schools and through the minor leagues. I was the Dave Stewart Community Service Award winner my rookie year at Oakland.
Really?
The Roberto Clemente award-winning nominee for the Angels in 2003. I just was always a guy that pretty much would go back to the hotel or go back home, write some songs, watch some MTV, watch some Sports Center. Yeah. And then, if they asked me to do charity work, I usually would do it. I very rarely said no. But yeah, I tried to stay away from the bars. I tried to stay away. I didn't even like taking Advil or Tylenol. I lived in the steroid era. I steered clear of that. I was, even being with Oakland and McGuire and Canseco and
God, they got big.
Yeah, they got big quick.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So I was pretty much straight as an arrow. There was maybe a few times here and there where I'd go out and binge drink, but very, very small times, And binge drink for me was probably 2 mixed drinks because that probably hit me hard.
Yeah.
Or a shot and 2 beers probably like made me feel way different than I was was used to.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's super. Yeah, that's unique. I appreciate you sharing that because, man, once I first started drinking when I was probably 12 or 13, it did something to my mind that made some trauma go away. And I didn't know it. I didn't know it then that's what it was doing, but boy, it connected with my brain.
Yeah.
Too good.
I never really had any trauma. I was the guy that I didn't understand how people could use drugs, how they could be addicted, how they could be alcoholic, I didn't really believe in depression or anxiety. Honestly, I thought that people must be weak, if they're dealing with that stuff.
Really?
Like, I didn't really have a lot of empathy for people. Like, if I heard somebody had a panic attack, I'm like, what is that? What does that mean? Like, how can stuff be that bad? Like, it's got to be made up, until I started having them later, in life. And, after using them and having depression and all that stuff. I mean, that's kind of how I got into it. Was I never really had adversity. I mean, I had pressure on me all the time, but I always just was so like, I'm going to be in the major leagues. I'm playing for 10 years or more. I'm winning a World Series, and that's it. Like, I don't care what I got to do to get there. Like, I'm going to outwork everybody. If I hit a roadblock, I'm going through it. And then I got injured and they told me that my career might be over. I'd blow my T6 and T7 thoracic disc out in spring training in 2004 with the Mariners. And I just started, like, I felt depressed. I felt mad at God. Like, wait, I've been good my whole life. Like, I'm making all this money now. I've never even got to have fun, And
yeah, I can see that. I can feel that. I've had a couple temper tantrums with God myself.
Right.
Like, what the fuck? And I can see how that would hit you. So was it the injury that tanked your mental health that led to the connection to alcohol?
I think so. I think a couple things. I'd always had a good, like, I was smart enough to kind of I was friends with everybody on all my teams, pretty much. I don't really ever remember having a teammate I didn't like. I liked them all. I thought they were all awesome. Now, I wouldn't hang out with them all like after games and stuff.
Sure.
But shoot, now, what was the question again? Sorry.
No. Was it the injury in 2004 that tanked your mental health?
Oh, yeah. So that's what it was. So I'd always have like a group of guys that would kind of surround me, and I knew that they were on the same page and that they would like hold me accountable. And so when I got to, I had that with guys in the minor leagues. I had that with Oakland. I had that with Anaheim. And then now I'm with a new team in Seattle, and I didn't like establish that yet because we're still in spring training. And then all of a sudden, boom, to have, and I had a knee injury in 98, but I never really had a serious injury. Yeah. And this one was serious. Like they were talking about possibly being paralyzed if I tried to play. And
did it happen on the field?
Yeah, it happened. I was going for a pop-up. I was playing third, and I hit the mound like in a full sprint with my foot extended, and it's kind of freak. It just jarred my spine at the right pressure, and it just blew my two discs, and the fluid had come out and almost completely shut off my spinal cord. So they're like, we don't know how much fluid's still left in there. If you play again and more comes out, it could possibly paralyze you. That's going to be a really hard injury to rehab. There's really no surgeries to help. There was one guy doing a surgery. I went right afterwards this spring training. I went to like 5 or 6 doctors. All of them said that I probably won't be able to play again if I could. There was one guy they sent me to. He would like clap. I would have to wait till June. So that was like March. I would have to wait till June for like a lot of the fluid to be absorbed into my body naturally. And then he would collapse my lung, take out a rib, come in like through here, come in through another thing in my back, put rebar down along my spine. And there would be a 5% chance of me being paralyzed, during the surgery.
I'm having one of those panic attacks just listening to this.
I think that's called invasive surgery.
Right. And so,
is this your first panic attack now? Like when this guy's telling you this? That's what that is.
Yeah. I don't think I panicked. I just felt like, wait a second, like this isn't how it's supposed to go. Like this is supposed to be, because I just came off the World Series year, my best year as a player, you put up those numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2002.
Oh, that's right. 2002.
Yeah. 2002, I had 285, 83 RBIs, 16 home runs or something like that. 36 doubles, a bunch of triples. 2003 was almost identical. And so I thought that the Angels would sign me to a long-term deal coming off of those 2 great years. Mm-hmm. And all 4 years in Anaheim were really good, but especially 2002 and 2003. So I thought, all right, I'm going to sign a deal. They ended up going a different direction. I signed with Seattle to a 3-year deal, for the biggest long-term deal. Well, the only long-term deal I had ever signed and the biggest total deal I had ever signed. And so I'm thinking, man, like I'm just hitting my prime. I'm going to end up putting up all-star numbers the next 3 or 4 years. And then boom, that happened. And I had 2 kids and 1 on the way. And I'm like, wait a second, like I can't even play with my kids now. Like what the heck's going on? And so I went into depression. I didn't have that good group of guys around me. Mm-hmm. I traveled with the team. I finally found a doctor that told me I could play if I could withstand the pain, which is probably something he should have never told me, because I was a guy that, I always heard the term, you can't make the club in the tub,
oh, really?
You don't want to be Wally pipped, have Lou Gehrig come and take your spot and never give it back. So like I did everything in my power. I was focused on getting back on the field despite the risk and rehabs. And when I was on rehab traveling with the team, I wasn't playing. I hadn't had that group of friends around. And I remember they asked me to meet them at the hotel bar, which I always tried to stay out of. And I went down there and I was probably sipping a beer, and those guys were like, "You need a nipple for that thing," and and they threw out like, I remember it was either Jack and Coke or Crown and Coke, and I drank it, and I'm like, "Oh, this ain't that bad," and so
sure.
Before I could even finish it, there's another one there, and then another one, and then another one, and so and then it took that anxiety and depression away that I was kind of feeling. With the injury. And then I'm like, I'm not playing tomorrow, so I'm not worried about my performance. I don't really have anything to do except for rehab, and so the next night I did it, and then the next night I did it, and it became this pattern. And before you know it, like I was drinking so much that I'd black out and make bad decisions. And as I made bad decisions, it was easier to make more bad decisions.
Sure.
And it got to the point where, I mean, it was like all I could think about was, man, how am I going to get? Where are we going to go out tonight? What am I, and I just started basically becoming an alcoholic, without knowing it. It's just so prevalent in the game that, like, I didn't think anything of it. Like, oh man, there's tons of guys that do this every day and still go out and rake, So, I'm just finally understanding why they did it, and
Sure.
it became a crutch for me.
When we were first kind of introducing here, being a professional baseball player and a like rock star musician, some people don't stand a chance when it comes to drugs and alcohol, living in that environment. So as you were drinking in 2004, you got back to play. I mean, did you play at all? Did you get back to the field in 2004?
Yeah, I did. I shouldn't have. After the season, I went and saw a specialist in LA, and he looked at my MRIs and X-rays. He's like, "I can't believe you played this year. Like, that was stupid." But
were you on any pain pills?
I probably was. I don't remember being addicted to them, but maybe I was. I don't know. I mean, I remember being on anti-inflammatories and, all sorts of stuff. And then, of course, the alcohol.
Yeah.
So who knows? I'm sure I had cortisone and all that stuff too. But yeah, I don't ever remember like pain pills being something that like made me want more of it, unless it was to just mask the pain, like legitimate pain. Even later in my addiction, I never was a big like pain pill guy.
I thank God every day that I wasn't, because I wouldn't be here.
Exactly. Yeah, because that could have led to just incredible stuff that I saw in other rehabs in my life.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it. I mean, speaking of defying the odds, going through a major back injury and you becoming an alcoholic as opposed to an opioid addicted to opioids, that's kind of defying the odds. We hear all the time here at IRC and in the community, the recovery community, a lot of this starts with a sports injury, and they get overprescribed by a overzealous doctor, and next thing you know, it graduates to intravenous heroin or now fentanyl.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a true miracle that I never did, because I remember at that time, like nobody was really concerned about the amount of pain pills that were being taken. I mean, there was guys that, I remember they lived on those things. They'd eat those things because their arm was ready to fall off, and the doctors would just prescribe whatever you wanted. It didn't matter what you wanted. They wanted you on the field, so they're going to prescribe you whatever you need to get on the field. And nobody thought like, oh man, this dude's taking way too many pain pills. We better watch out. It really hadn't come out at that time yet. So, like I probably was taking some to make sure I was able to play, but I don't think I ever became like addicted in the way that became dangerous, and so many rehabs I heard, yeah, I got it because of this injury and this surgery. And then I started eating those, and then I couldn't afford them or get the prescriptions anymore. So I changed to this, and, you know, it's awesome.
So you got to the Cardinals in 2000. Was it 05 or 6 when you got here? I think it was 6.
06.
It was the year was it off season, or did you come in the middle of the year? I was at Tumblein in 2006, not remembering a whole lot besides that great playoff run.
Yeah. So, I mean, just a quick recap. You know, I got to the Oakland in 96, end of 96, stayed there through 99, went to the Angels 2000 through 2003. So 4 years, 3 years with the A's, 4 years with the Angels, signed with Seattle for 3 year with a 4 year option by the club. You know, had tried to play, ended up hitting 215 that year, you know, playing with extreme pain. I ended up pulling my oblique and still trying to play too. So I had my back and oblique messed up in 2004. Hit 215, 10 home runs, 49 RBIs. You know, for me, a horrible year, but you know, nowadays is a pretty good year.
I mean, yeah.
And then,
Ollie might have you come to Jupiter if he's, you know,
right. Yeah. Yeah. And then, like, you know, with the using and stuff, not the using, but the drinking and stuff in 2004, I had, you know, I ended up having an affair. I ended up, you know, going through a separation and then eventually a divorce in 2005. Hardly played at all. Had like 40 at bats or something like that. Hit 068. It was just awful. So now I wasn't playing. So then my addiction got bigger. Then I got released in August 18th or 19th of 2004, or sorry, 2005.
Okay.
And then that off season was the first time I'd ever seen a drug. So that's when I was introduced to cocaine, out up in Chicago one day. And, didn't think, you know, I thought, wow, this like wakes you up. You know, I thought, this isn't too bad. Like, you know, my fiance and one of my friends like introduced it to me. They had told me it's not that bad. You know, they called it Restart. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Promise me you'll never do it. Don't ever bring it in front of me. I was so anti-drug. And then like after being released and thinking my career's over and then not talking with family and friends and a lot of my good friends because they were really disappointed in me, you know, with the divorce and everything. I was like, why not? And so I did it. And then that was the start. Like I thought, man, this stuff's pretty cool. You can stay up all night and talk and
sobers you up, done it.
Yeah, sobers you up. You can drink longer, and I was the guy that I don't like to go to bed, so it was like the perfect.
You should have never been introduced to cocaine.
Yeah,
ever.
I hate going to sleep. I just I don't like waking up.
Sure.
So it was great. I could go days and days without sleeping. You know, and so. Yeah, it started like that, and I didn't like totally dive into it at that point. I was just exposed to it at that point, and maybe did it a couple more times that off season. And I thought my career was over. And then like mid February, I got a call. I was upstairs drinking, like it was probably afternoon, and
lose track a little bit.
Yeah. And I was still in bed, and I heard like banging on my window, and I went and looked, and it was a cardinal like smacking into my window. And then minutes later, my agent called, said, "Hey, the Cardinals want to invite you to spring training." You know, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And I told him the story, and I went right away to get my hair cut, and then I asked the girl who was from my high school. I said, "Hey, can you bleach this blonde and then dye it red?" She's like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And it went back because like the last time I really had a fun season was 2002.
Sure.
With the Angels. And that year, like in August, we had like paint the town red day. And I went out and had red streaks put in my hair, and I had a goatee, and I had a red streak in my goatee. And so now my second wife, she didn't like my goatee, so she let me have just this spot right here. And
compromise, Jeff. That's called compromise.
It's good to know.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm going back to that. So because I remember like Mickey Hatcher, our hitting coach, I was so hot when I did that, after I did that all the way through the playoffs. I ended up having a huge home run that turned the whole thing around in Game 6. I had 19 RBIs, which was the record for the most RBIs in a postseason until David Freese broke it in 2011. But he would, every time I'd come up, he'd take a red Sharpie and color it in. So I'm like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to dye it every day when I go to the field as a reminder, like I'm going to war, and this is going to be my war paint. And so I did it, and I told my agent, and he's like, man, that's a bad idea. He's like, St. Louis is a super conservative city. They're not going to like it. And I'm like, no, man, they're going to love it. It's going to be my war paint. And I went to spring training thinking I'd be like number 89 because I was a minor league invitee. And they gave me 26, which was my dad's number. And I'm like,
shit.
Yeah. And I'm like, we're winning the World Series. I hadn't even made the team yet. I kept telling everybody we're winning the World Series that year. And I made the team on the last day. People started loving this, and
it's still legendary. Do you need to tell this agent of yours?
Yeah, it's crazy. And I ended up making the team, having a great year. And having a great, we got, my hit got us into the playoffs.
Yeah.
We had a really good team. I had some huge hits in the NLCS against the Mets.
God, what a series.
Tony used me in the right spot at the right time, and we won it. The only problem is I had remarried, and this girl, she's a beautiful girl. She's from Southern California. She's been in Playboy before, like kind of like a dream girl, but
just like my wife. She's from. My wife's from Southern Cal, but she is yet to be in Playboy.
Yeah, well,
I don't think she'd do it.
But like to the kid from the Midwest, I'm like, wow, that's pretty awesome. Like,
it's awesome, Scott.
Yeah. My dad wasn't too happy about it. And thinking back, it was. I just wasn't in my right mind,
sure.
But I ended up marrying her, and I always made my own decisions, but she wasn't the best influence. She had been raised in a Riverside, California, where
that's where Ashley's from.
They might know each other.
That's no shit. So she grew up. Her dad was in Long Beach, and her mom was at Riverside. She went to Riverside High School. Yeah.
Yeah, her parents, ended up divorcing, and she had been exposed to drugs and alcohol at a young age, and it's almost like it's like drugs out there is kind of like alcohol. It's like everybody does it, and it's just like its own little world. So that off season. Sorry, I'm getting a cramp.
Oh,
I hate that.
So that season, like, we would go out all the time, go to like clubs and
in Southern Cal,
wherever we were. Like during the season, we go to clubs. After the game, I was always asking guys on the other team, like, hey, what's the good clubs to go to? I get bottle service, and I didn't really do the drugs that season until like August. We were out on the road in Arizona, and we had played a day game in St. Louis, and then traveled right after the game to Arizona. We got there like probably
happy
like
flight day,
8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then we all went out, like not all of us, but a lot of us went out to a club, and some of the guys were, messing with cocaine, and they're like, hey, you want one? And I'm like, no, I don't do that. I did it a few times in the off season for the first time. I don't do that during the season. And they're like, come on. And so I think I did like 4 lines. and my wife was there, and then the next day I hit 2 home runs, and then they're like, "Oh, dude, you got to do it again," and I'm like,
"That's
yeah." I'm like,
right.
"No," and they're like, "Come on, man," and so I did it, and I hit like another double and a home run, and
you're on a heater.
Yeah, and then I'm like, "I'm not doing it again." They're like, "Come on," and I'm like, "No." So I did it, and then I struck out 4 times. The only time in my career I struck out 4 times. So they're like, "See?" And so the next day I did it, had another great game, and so I just had this ritual, this routine, superstition that I was doing for the rest of the season.
That's it.
And I said, "I'm not going
to." For us that don't make major league money, that's an expensive routine. If we got into that ritual.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was expensive. And so I did it, and I kept saying, well, at the end, and it kind of got worse. I would do more and more, like, and stay up later and later. And then I'd say, I think even my wife started getting worried about it, and she's like, "Man, you gotta like stop." And I'm like, "I can't." I go, as soon as the season's done, I'll stop. Well, then we won the World Series, and then we're partying everywhere. We're in Vegas, hanging out with Axl Rose till 9 in the morning, and in Aruba and
wow,
Phoenix, Scottsdale, and we're just all over the place. Back in Newport Beach and all that, and then it just got worse and worse and worse.
I've done coke. I did coke at the Balboa Bay Club in Newport Beach.
Oh yeah.
We have some. I don't know. Maybe we got some similarities.
Right.
U of I, Riverside women, and
yeah. So I by the time I got to 2007, I'd pretty much given up everything in my life for 2 things, and that was drugs and alcohol.
That could be like the name of a crux. You had mentioned before we came on, and we talk about it in a little bit, your book you're writing, but that's a real crossroad in your life right there, to that all of this 2 World Series, God-given talent, wisdom from your father. What a great father. You have a strained relationship now with your dad, which, the first half of the podcast, you can just hear it oozing through you, how important he is to you.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, it's a perfect storm for self-medicating and it getting out of control is what I hear.
Yeah.
Injuries, depression, divorce,
yeah.
strained relationships. I mean, people that listen to this that are near and rock bottom, or their families, these are all the big red flags here. And one of them's enough. You have about 4 of them, if counting, the restraint, like strained relationship with your dad, who seems to be one of the, if not the closest person in your life. You're depressed, going through a divorce, like your family's falling apart, and here you are, kind of giving it all up for 2 things. To use there's the puppy.
Yep.
Giving it up for 2 things, alcohol and coke, and that's it's not like a choice you would have ever made.
No way. Like, I would have never in a million years would I even thought I would ever try a drug, let alone be addicted to alcohol and drugs. So I definitely didn't want to tell anybody, and it was very hard, when that all came out in the front page of the USA, the USA Today sports page. I was on ESPN Sports Center, and they, they weren't disclosing what it was. So then people were starting come up with all sorts of stuff. Well, is he sniffing paint thinner? I heard he's sniffing gas.
Jesus.
Keep him away from the foul lines.
That's
right.
That's funny.
So it's hard enough, like, living. Most people don't want their own family to know, let alone the whole universe to know.
Most popular game in the world.
Yeah.
You've been to the top of the mountain twice, where, the percentage of people is in the 1/100th of a percent.
Yeah.
And so the stakes are much higher, and you're blasted across Sports Center. I do remember it was near the end of my run in Champaign, and Yeah, I was deep in alcohol and cocaine addiction. It's very similar. I always say that cocaine was a secondary. The gal that did that article, Jeff, said that I majored in alcohol and minored in cocaine. It was always something that allowed me to drink more alcohol. It was like a tool that I could abuse my drug of choice, which was alcohol, more when I did cocaine. It like sobered me up, I felt, and I could drink more and stay up later. So
right. I'm not laughing at you. My dog it's raining and he's a big fraidy cat, so he's
the Doberman pit bull. Oh, that's the lab. Okay, I was gonna say
lab.
But you no, feel free to laugh. This is funny. I'm looking back at that, but I do remember after that World Series. I mean, your team, that 06 team, for a lifelong Cardinals fan, was I was at Game 5 when you guys won it, and with my father, we were partying. But I remember the following year, the news coming out that you got like in an accident, I think in LA, and I may have some of the details, and I was like, oh shit, he parties, and I was like, he's a Scott Spiezio, he won us a World Series, he's a part. Like you mistakenly thought it was fucking cool, and your life's falling apart because I was in the middle of my tailspin.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, yeah, like you said, I think alcohol was my main thing, and then cocaine, the way it mixed with alcohol, it forms a different compound, chemical in your body, and like it got to the point where I didn't like doing one without the other. Even though like alcohol was my main one. Like I could drink alcohol by itself, but I couldn't just do cocaine without alcohol.
Same.
It didn't work. But
it would make me. I would get gaggy. I would get real gaggy if I did it. I had to get a perfect buzz of alcohol on for it really to hit right.
Yeah. And so by the time 2007 rolled around, I mean, I had hidden alcohol in my bags, in the dugout, in the clubhouse.
Really? Holy shit!
Yeah, I had, I had got to where I had a Adderall, or Ritalin,
legal cocaine or meth. Really, is what it is.
Or Vyvanse, because I could pull that apart and it was white powder, so I could snort that. I could get as much as I needed. I would also get cocaine and sometimes have it in my nut cup, and so. I remember one game in 2007, I couldn't find alcohol, so I had a clubhouse kid, they're in their 20s, but I said, get a cooler, fill it with ice, and put a 24-pack of a beer in it and put it in the shower. And between innings, I would guzzle like, 2 or 3 of those every inning. And I drank the whole thing in the game, and I think I had like 10 putouts at third base and a home run. It was like, it was crazy. I remember like Isringhausen and like Carpenter being like, dude, how are you even alive? Like, you're a legend. How are you doing? And I'm thinking they don't really know what's going on. I mean, they had an idea, but it's amazing that I made it, during that time. Sometimes you're playing, you got no sleep, you're dehydrated, you're all messed up, and you're facing guys throwing, 100 miles an hour, and it's 120 degrees on the field.
God.
And it's hard for me to stay awake sometimes, and it was nuts.
You really, when I've been fortunate enough to sit in the green seats, that's when it changes your model of the game, because you can really see the ball move coming from the pitcher to the catcher, and how it's not something you experience anywhere else in the stadium unless you have fortunate enough to sit down there every once in a while, and you can see the way even the guys that are coming out of the bullpen that are getting shelled a little bit, what they do with that baseball is fucking unbelievable. It's surgical, and that's different. They say that's where it's just, and to be able to do that, putting down a 24-pack in the shower in between innings and a couple keys. That is pretty.
You did have the cheapest beer in Busch Stadium, though.
That's true. Right? Well, hopefully you didn't buy it from the ushers.
Yeah, I didn't.
Most of the time at home, I always had vodka, with me. It was pretty easy to access. And most of the time on the road, I could too. Even to the point where, I called down at the hotels and be like, hey, can you bring up a bottle of vodka? And, you know, they'd charge me $200 for it. And I wouldn't care. You know, it was, whatever. It didn't matter. Like, just give it to me. But, you know, I'd bring stuff through airports or, you know, on team flights. It was just crazy, like stuff I would never do now.
Never.
Even later in my life, you know, bringing it through airports in my sock or in my pocket. Like I never thought I'd get caught, you know. It's weird.
You look back now in recovery and are like, I can't believe I did that. And it's something that you never thought you would ever do. I mean, that's the power that this disease can have. When was, if 2007, they found you, were you in the clubhouse when you came to and had IVs?
Oh yeah. I was I want to say I was in the lineup, and it happened a few times that year where I might like all of a sudden get dizzy and like tell Tony that like I can't see straight, you know. I'm sure he thought something was up, but I would always say, well, I just don't feel right, or I feel dizzy, and but I remember being like, I don't feel good at all. Like I'm gonna have to go in, and I went in and I told the trainers, and I don't really remember anything else. I just remember waking up, everybody was gone. So I was passed out, probably because I was up for so long.
Sure.
And my body just shut down, and they put me on IVs. And I remember later talking to the doctor that was there, and he's like, "Man, we were just scared that you weren't gonna make it. Like you were in a
that's an overdose, Scott. That's an overdose.
Yeah, it might have been. I don't really know. I just know that it wasn't good, and I woke up, everybody was gone, and I pulled the IVs out, and they wanted to talk to me, and I said, no, I'm fine. And I went home, and then I came back, and that's when I had the meeting with Walt and Tony, and you know, they were sincere. Like, you know, they're like, hey, we're gonna help you. We're gonna do whatever it can. We're gonna send you away. You know, we're gonna put you on the DL, and because I had an infection in my finger when we were in New York, and I ended up having to, you know, be in the hospital for 3 days, and you know, the team left without me. I stayed in New York, and so they said, we're gonna just say that infection came back, and we're gonna keep it from everybody. And I'm like, okay, great, you know. And then the next morning, I woke up, and it was front page of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, front page of the USA Today.
Yeah, I don't remember
sports
that.
page.
Champagne.
Yeah, it was awful. Yeah, and then, you know, I had people call me. You know, I was still seeing my two sons because they're old enough to come down and like stay with me for, you know, weeks in the summer.
Okay.
And so I was still able to function, you know, but I definitely wasn't myself. And it was awesome to have them. But, you know, now all of a sudden people are like, what's going on? You know, like she was scared. You know, their mom was scared. People were scared. I didn't know what to do. I felt horrible. Like everybody, I started getting a bunch of texts, and it was overwhelming. And so then,
were the texts mostly sincere though?
Yeah, most of them were sincere. Some of them were like, what's going on? Cause it wasn't real specific, you know?
Okay. Sure.
The good thing is like there was like a year, I'm trying to think, like probably, basically all of 2006, I didn't talk to my dad. And probably most of the off season in 2006 going into 2007. And it kind of stunk because we won the World Series, and I wanted my dad.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, man.
You know, my oldest sister came, my youngest sister came for like one game in the World Series. My boys were there. Not my daughter; she was too young. You know, some other friends, like a lot of my core friends, kind of distanced themselves from me because it was hard for them to watch. You know, I was a different person, so I attracted like a different type of friends, or friends that maybe, you know, I had friends that were like, hey, I don't care what's going on with you, I'm going to be there for you. And then some friends that were kind of stuck in the middle with between Amy and myself. And so they kind of pulled back a little bit. But in 2007, the Cardinals reached out to my dad and said, "Hey, would you be, not opening day, but the second day they gave us our rings. And they said, would you be willing to come and present your ring to your son?" And my dad's like, "Well, we haven't been talking. I don't think it's a good idea." And they said, "Listen, you're the first father-son to ever win the two World Series apiece. And more importantly, you're the only father-son in the history of the game that has ever won with the same organization." And they said, it's bigger than you. And so he did it. And so I didn't know it. I was like sitting ready to go up and get my ring.
Really?
And they said, Mike Shannon said, yeah, it was right before I was going to go get it. Like, I hear Mike Shannon say, like, for the next player, we have a special guest presenter. For the first time in history, a father-son has won the World Series with the same organization. And, from the 1964-67 World Series champ and the 1968 National League champions, Ed Spiezio. And I turn and I see him in his old 26 jersey. And I just started bawling, and he went up there. He hugged Tony and Walt and DeWitt, and it was really cool. And then I'm crying, and then they call me out, and we hug, and it was a special moment. I don't think there was the dry eye in the
That's getting me right now, man.
Yeah, no, I'm about to.
And so we came off and we were hugging, and I had my arm around him and I held up the ring, and we got some great pictures of it. And I found out my mom was up in the president's, the owner's suite. So we both pointed up there. I got a picture of that too. It's right over there, but, and then afterwards, like I went to their hotel, which was right across the street, and I think it was the Westin at the time.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right by Jay Bucks was right across. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. I went there and we talked for like 3 hours, and that kind of opened up the relationship again. And so it was good because later in the year, in August or whenever it was, when I went to rehab, like they came down and they were there for 2 days, like taking notes on talking to counselors and other parents and things that were there. They had some speakers that talked to them. And so they
like
didn't
an
know
Al-Anon kind, was it? Or
yeah, something similar to that. Yeah.
Okay.
And then they had some one-on-ones with the, the doctors and counselors. And I know, for a fact that my parents came away with a better understanding of addiction and what it is, and like knew that they couldn't enable me.
Sure.
Because my mom and dad always say, they told them that you can't hold the rope. Like you can't hold the rope while they hang themselves.
Yeah. That's heard that a lot. I've had to say it a lot to
right.
Moms are generally the hardest. When people ask us what separates us here at IRC, maybe from anybody from other treatment centers, I instantly tell them it's our family program. So after your first week of medically assisted detox, you're in a blackout. After your first week, we bring in your family on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and we have a director of family programming that works with both of them separately, the families and the client, the us's of the world, and then together. And it's all about education and kind of reintegration. If your exit strategy is discharging back to a loved one, or we strongly recommend sober living, but bringing in the family to educate, it's so powerful because there's so much misinformation and stigma out there. A lot of families think if they fix Scott or Chris, the family's going to just be perfectly fine and everything's going to go back to normal. And that's bullshit. It just doesn't work that way. So, so to hear that, I know how powerful, and in my experience with my mother, my father had died, which is really and he was that's why I can just totally relate to your story. And after he died is when my bottom completely fell out.
Yeah.
And I was able to use and abuse my mom's love, man, and manipulate her till she finally went Al-Anon and some praying, singing nuns that kind of told her that you gotta let them crash and burn. I know it's counterintuitive for a mother, but now you as a parent, me as a parent, I know how hard that is for parents, for sure.
Yeah, and I've talked to many of them about it, and some of them are willing to do it, some of them aren't. And usually the ones that are willing to do it have a pretty good success rate. The ones that aren't, it just keeps straying along, and it's not good.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
The disease of addiction, I say, flourishes in the heart of a mother, because there's something that I'll never understand about being a mom. But I've been a mama's boy, and I get it. There's something, because it's completely counter instinctual for them to put up boundaries and not enable a loved one. So, and I always tell them, listen, there's no judgment if you're unable to do this, because it's not a guaranteed success rate. You could follow everything we say, and it could turn out really poorly. So I understand. Exactly right. Yeah. But to your point, the statistics and the say that it is much better odds to speed up someone's bottom by not enabling. So I'm really grateful that your mom and dad got to learn about it, especially back then. I still think things have evolved quite a bit to where we're at today in 2025 for hopefully the better. But you still weren't at bottom. Were you in 2007?
No, I mean, it was pretty bad, but I came back and got a hit like the first day back from, I think I even went to outpatient that day, and then went to the game and went like 1 for 2 off of Zambrano and the Cubs at home.
There we go. Oh, yeah. God, I hated him.
Yeah. And so then I ended up traveling with the team, but it's really hard because I still thought, well, okay, I just won't do drugs, but I could still drink,
Sure.
And I probably still was drinking. I ended up finishing pretty hot, and I thought, okay, I'm all good. And then I came back, and I think I was getting tested by MLB like 3 times a week.
Okay.
So I was all good. And then I ended up getting that wreck. And it all stemmed from like an argument back home where I was supposed to bring my kids to Disney that off season, and she wouldn't let me. And I had like first class tickets to California, and I had all these plans that like Universal and Disney and SeaWorld in San Diego and all this stuff, and all these decorations and presents out there, and she wouldn't let me bring them. And so I ended up, going out there late, and then we went out, and I got in that wreck, another argument at the bar, and I took off going too fast, came around the corner, slid across, hit a chain link fence, the airbag hit me in the face. I ended up jumping out of the sunroof, I think.
Oh shit.
Leaving my wallet and phone in the car. Went to my neighbor's house because I didn't have my key to get in my condo. They were having a party. There was coke there. I think I had a concussion, so I think I threw up in his bedroom, and he got in my face, and so I punched him in the eye.
Oh shit!
Eye. My wife came home. I ended up. She brought me up to my room. I was really hot and not feeling good. I think I truly had a concussion from the airbag and the wreck. And then I was naked in bed. She had like a towel on my head, and then the cops were banging on the door. And she's like, "There's 8 cops outside." And I'm like,
"Holy!"
Tell them I got pneumonia. And
God, she
came back, and she's like, "They want to come in," and I'm like, Tell them I wasn't out. Tell them I had pneumonia. Well, I figured they were going to come in. So I'm up on the like 9th story. I end up naked climbing off the balcony.
Oh,
and
wow.
had one hand on the rail, 1 foot on like a dryer vent or something. And I swung down to the balcony below. I don't know how I didn't die. I mean,
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And I got on the balcony below, and then I was like cold. So I opened the door, and it was open on the sliding glass door. It went inside, and it was like very little light. And I hid in a closet. Well, I don't even know who my neighbor was, you know.
And you're butt naked?
I'm butt naked. I'm in the closet.
Holy shit.
And then I was wrestling around and knocked all the whole rack of clothes off, made a huge noise. I'm like, oh crap. So I opened the thing and I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm your neighbor. I'm sorry. And nobody responded. So then I like I turned on the lights, put on a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. I like looked in the bedroom. Nobody was in there. There was a Viagra. So I grabbed the Viagra. There was a Viagra laying on the nightstand. I popped the Viagra and went and opened a bottle of champagne that was over the fridge. Started drinking the bottle of champagne, and
oh boy,
yeah, it was crazy. And then I waited a little bit. I was gonna climb back up. When I started going back up, my wife was looking for me. She didn't know where I went. And she saw me. She's like, "Oh my God, go back in. They're still here." So I went back in, and then she came down and got me. I went back up the stairs, and the next day they were still knocking on the door. I went down the freight elevator into my car. We went up. Now it's New Year's Eve day, so the 31st, and went up to Lake Arrowhead, spent the night there. Had a buddy and
you didn't get caught. They didn't catch you.
No, I went up there.
I don't want to glorify this, but this is a fucking hell of a story, Scott.
Yeah. I partied up there New Year's Eve.
Are you telling people this story while you're up there?
Oh yeah.
It's hard to believe. People are like, okay, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's not over yet. And then my neighbor's wife got arrested that night. Had to bail her out the next morning. And then I went to Big Bend and I bought snowboards and snowsuits or whatever, for snowboarding. I'd never went before. We went snowboarding, met some guys there that were fans, drank to oblivion, couldn't drive home. So one of them drove us back. When we're pulling around the same corner where I got in that accident, 2 days before, somebody throws a beer can or a bottle against my car. And so I stop, I jump out. I still got my boots from snowboarding on.
Holy
shit.
Jump
out, I climb up the wall and start fighting with 5 guys. And they start, one of them I got, but one of them's got his armor on my neck. The rest of them are kicking me. And I can't breathe. And they're like, you had enough. And finally I tapped out and they ran. Somebody called the cops. I ran. I think my wife went and parked the car. I ran and hid behind bushes until the cops left. And then I went in. So it was 2 out of 3 nights I'm getting chased by cops, and they never
never caught you.
Never caught me. And then
how many stolen bases do you have in your career? Do you know, this is a base burglar thing?
33.
Man, you maybe should have gone for it more. This was great.
Yeah. I don't know, if I was caught, if it would have been better or what, but I didn't get caught. And then, I remember there was a court case back in Morris that I was supposed to go to regarding I think my wife put a order of protection against me because she didn't want me to get the kids. And I was telling her I spent all this money, you got to give me the kids. And so there was a court date set. And I'm I can't go back there. They're going to be the people from California are going to be waiting for me. So I didn't go back. They were there. Then the rumors were spread like I was out in the middle of the woods, like hiding from everybody, which wasn't the case. I was just in California.
I mean, the true story is good enough. Like they didn't need to embellish anything on this.
Yeah, crazy. And so then my agent called me and he said the Cardinals knew about the wreck, and nobody really knew about the other time. The other one when I got in the fight, but I still got scarred from that one. And then I ended up flying to have a meeting with the Cardinals, and Mozeliak come into the picture, and we had a meeting in Phoenix or wherever, or where did we have a meeting? I can't remember where we had the meeting, but we had a meeting somewhere, and it was I went to Sierra Tucson in Arizona. My agent had told me about the place, so I went there, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go there.
This is inpatient?
I was inpatient.
Okay.
Yep. And it was right before spring training, so I was like asking them if I could play catch and stuff, and they're like, no, like you can't. So I remember like grabbing big rocks and like throwing them, trying to make sure my arm was ready. Yeah, and that one I actually participated. I learned a lot more. I wasn't worried about stuff getting out. And, I had that meeting, and Mozeliak was like, well, what do you want me to do? And he's like, what happens, if this all comes out? And I'm like, hey, man, that's your decision, and so nothing came out. I went to spring training, and I remember like joking with the guys like, hey, yeah, anytime I'd hear sirens, I'd be like, oh, they're coming for me,
Sure.
And
PTSD.
Everybody would laugh, and then one day after a game, I thought I was back on track. I think I had started to figure it out. And then one game after a day, the Irvine Police Department put out 6 warrants for my arrest. They had been trying to piece it together, going through my credit card receipts and stuff like that. And so they wanted me for like, it was all kind of, I mean, I don't think they could have really got me because they never caught me. They couldn't say that I was drunk at that time, If they could say, yeah, I ran from the accident, I hit a fence, but they put this big story out that I had, when I was underneath at that other dude's or whoever's condo, they said I was locked in a utility room and that they were threatening me, and they said they pieced together that I was going like 100 miles an hour and like all this stuff. And a lot of it was wrong. So, I mean, I could have definitely sued them, but, the Cardinals ended up quickly releasing me. They said I had become a distraction, and I kind of fell off the wagon again. I'm like, oh crap, if I'm not playing with the Cardinals, I don't want to play. So I went and got a tattoo. At the tattoo place, they had cocaine, and so I got back in. Yeah. And I stayed up all night with those guys, like a couple nights. My wife was trying to actually get me to straighten out. And then the Braves came to me and like, hey, if you can get this stuff off your record, then we'll give you a shot. And so I did. I came to a plea bargain. I had a sign that I wouldn't sue the Irvine Police Department. And I mean, it's crazy.
Wow,
so I went to the Braves. I ended up, I was this close to playing for the Braves. I already had a house there. I was in AAA, and then I don't know, something set me off one night, and I like, forget it. Like, I don't want to play here. I'm gonna miss my kids. I'm retiring. And then I just went on a bender, and it was bad. And then we separated. I tried salvaging my relationship with my wife. I tried going back playing independent ball and end of 2009 and 2010, played the Dominican, but it wasn't in my heart anymore. And
Sure.
I was still battling with it. So yeah, for like another 10 years, I went to, 11, 12 rehabs in like a 10-year period.
Really?
Yeah.
That's all 30-day stays?
Yeah, 28 to 30 or more.
How long before in that 10-year did you what was your longest sober streak? Did you get months?
I think I had like an 8, a 9, and maybe close to a year. But then there was some that was like the same day I got out of rehab, I drank, on the flight.
Tell me it's not a disease, man.
Yeah, I tried antabuse. I tried
You did try, and I was telling somebody we were talking about that last show, Jeff, with Sean, that is such a big. I mean, that people, I hate throwing up. I'm a fucking baby when I throw up. Yeah. I get nobody. Let me tell you something. I pray a lot. I talk to Jesus a lot, but never more than when I'm puking. I am telling him I am sorry for everything. And if the naltrexone didn't stick for me, that was going to be my next thing, because I thought antabuse would have kept me from drinking. I think. Yeah,
I took antabuse and I drank on the flight and threw up on the flight right away.
Holy shit! You drank right through it.
I drank right through it. Yeah. And I do the same with Vivitrol, the naltrexone. I drink right through it.
You took the shot of it? Pardon the pun, the shot in the ass, the Vivitrol. Yeah. So when you do that, you couldn't get drunk. Is that,
I would still feel different. So I'd still drink.
Man, that's what I mean. Tell me it's not a disease.
Yeah.
When people say this, it takes over your fucking soul, man.
Yeah. It's nuts. Yeah. So I kept my whole idea was, and I was going to 3 meetings a day at AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery, counseling 3 times a week. But it was still like, I always say, like, I pray, like, God help me. Yeah. And then I think I was good. Like, and I'd say, okay, I'm good now. I don't need your help anymore. And I'd steer off the road again, And
complacency, right?
What's that?
That's what complacency. There's a difference between like recovery and active recovery. And if I'm not active in my recovery, I'm scared to death that complacency will come back and bite me in the ass.
Yeah, exactly. It's the drift. It's kind of like the Christian drift too.
Sure.
It's easy to drift, and then all of a sudden you're in a moment of weakness, and boom, So that's why either meetings or or helping others or church or whatever it is, to stay tied in. Like, that's why I'm still super active and trying to help people one-on-one or give them, advice or, speaking at Celebrate Recovery or AA or doing these podcasts, or working with, relatives of addicts or alcoholics.
Yep.
Involved with church, all that stuff. It's amazing, like, how many Christians, had addiction issues in the past. And so, it's definitely a blessing to still be able to share my experience and help others. I think if I didn't do that, I'd be in deep trouble.
I couldn't imagine. People ask me what my program was because AA hasn't been my specific program. I do recommend it to many. And I always say I need as many tools in my toolbox as I can get. And the Jesus shit is what saved my life. But it's also like following but listening. And when I go to meetings or I'm around people that are in this community, my ears are open. I do talk a lot. It's a curse of mine, but when the going gets tough, man, I got to know that I don't know shit about fuck. I say that often. I got to listen. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and there's people that have done this, and I've tried it Chris's way. You've tried it Scott's way, and it did not end up well.
Yeah. I mean, that's the steps as you go through them. I finally had to get past step 1 and surrender. And
well, you tried not to. You went down swinging.
Right. Yeah, I went down swinging. It's I always say it's the definition of insanity. I kept running off the cliff. And finally I realized that, step 1 was true. I had to give it over to God, to a higher power. and I just started working them. AA is not something I do all the time now. I'm kind of like you. I tell people it's great. I went to so many, at one point I had them all memorized. I had everything memorized. I still go every once in a while to, like I said, to speak or to bring somebody that's afraid to go. To kind of, introduce them to some people. Cause I'm still friends with that people go all the, there's people that I know that have been going 30, 40 years.
Same meeting.
Yeah. I know they're there. So I'll be like, hey, Paul, or hey, Ed, or, hey, this is his first time in, or this is her first time in. Can you, kind of hold their hand and, eventually try to help them find a sponsor, things like that. What I'm good at is telling people what worked for me and pointing in the right direction, and to let them know that there's hope, that, it's never too late. Never too late to be sober, never too late to restart your life, never too late to mend broken relationships, to accomplish things that you had dreamed of, and even better, in the promises it says that, before you're even halfway through, you'll be amazed. And that was the case, it got to the point. I don't know what just happened. I broke something.
We still got you.
Yeah. It got to the point where my last time, and I kept trying, because I knew each time I tried that the percentages got better of me recovering, fully. So I can't remember where I heard that one rehab. Maybe in Rockford. And the guy said, hey, each time that you try, and there was a guy that I think that worked there that said it was like he had been to rehab 50 something times. I'm like, well, all right, dude, I still got a long way to go. And he started working there and was doing great. And I became friends with him. And so I'm like, every time I do this, every time I go, I have a better chance of succeeding. And so that was my game plan. And I started doing suggestions, some of the stuff they suggested. One of the things was I handed over, I'd spent most of my money. I'd been divorced twice. I still had my property. I still had some cash in the bank, some investments, not a lot. And I was quickly going through it. And so I turned what I had left over to my dad, power of attorney. I let him control it. I got rid of all my cars. Wow. I didn't have access to bank cards, to bank accounts. Everything that we had was him and me. So it wasn't like him or me. It was him and me. So I couldn't do anything without him. And so
the level of humility that one goes through to do that at your age, humility, I think was saved my life. The day I checked into rehab, I became humble. I mean, you look around and you're like, how the fuck did it get to this? And I just hear a level of humility that is inspiring to be able to do that. That's going to help me through some hard shit in life. You just saying that. I mean it, that I'm going through right now.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I knew it was like, I didn't have the willpower. I needed him to save stuff, because I did not want to be one that was left with absolutely nothing. And so he did that, and it was hard, like they would bring me all these groceries, if I wanted to go somewhere, I either had to ride my bike or, beg somebody for a ride. I was still, for a while there, I was still able to manipulate people to bring me alcohol, or to scrounge up enough money to buy like cheap Skull vodka, or, some off vodka like that,
The 2-time World Series winner, like buying plastic jugs. It's what I was doing.
Yeah, lots of them.
I was a horrible Little League player. We have a lot in common, but I was all right at second base. I just couldn't. I was a below average hitter in Corey League. Yeah. I was a hockey player though, Scott. I was a hockey player.
Yeah, you guys are tough. So like he, eventually I got, I stopped using the drugs. I was still struggling with the vodka. I had a girl that I had met that, you know, just said she wanted to help me. And so she would come and like sometimes bring me food. And if I had stuff here, she would pour my drinks and she would like dilute them. And then one day my back was hurting. My back was hurting for a while. And, you know, I was one of those guys when they tell me like your liver enzymes are elevated or you better stop.
Yes, sir.
You know, I'm like, yeah, whatever, you know, I'm different, you know, like, my liver is evil. It needs to be punished. I got too much blood in my alcohol system. I used to joke, you know, I used to joke around a lot. And so I go to rehab. I get my levels would be better. I start drinking again. And so my back was hurting. I went, to get an MRI. When I came out, my eyes were yellow. Now, I don't know if there was something else going on, you know, if I had a kidney stone or what, you know, or if it was all alcohol, I don't know. But I ended up being jaundice, and it took her 24 hours to get me into the hospital. I refused. And then finally I went and they told me like, everything's shutting down. You got a 20% chance to live. You're going to have to wait. If you can make it, you're going to have to wait 6 months without drinking before you can have your transplant.
Yep.
And that's like one of the first times, instead of me asking God for help, I asked him to take away my cravings. I said, God, help me. But I said, will you please take away my cravings so I don't have cravings anymore? So I was a guy that never
That's a specific
liked alcohol.
prayer.
Yeah. I never liked alcohol. I never used drugs, and I went from that guy that never thought I would ever see a drug or drink alcohol to a guy that now was thinking, man, how am I going to go 6 months without drinking? You know, even though I'm facing death. So I said, God, take away my cravings. And so, you know, there was times in the past where I'd go past Chili's and I'd see margaritas, 50% off or 2 for $1, and my mouth would start watering. But once I said that prayer, from that was April 6th, 2018. From that day on, I've had no cravings whatsoever. And whenever I see alcohol, like hard alcohol, I feel like I'm going to throw up. Like it's just this instinctive. I remember in the past, people would say, replay the tape of like your worst, rock bottom times. But like you said, you hate throwing up. I don't like throwing up, but I did it a lot. And I'd feel that like my stomach's starting to get ready to throw up. And so that still happens to this day. So I've had no drugs, no alcohol.
Amen, man. Amen.
No cravings. I'm over 7 years. April
Congratulations,
will be 8
brother.
April 6th will be 8 years. And the crazy thing is I was going to the best liver specialist, in the Chicago area, Northwestern Medicine. I had a team of liver specialists that I'd see. They were, right away I made it, but I went out of the hospital and I came back in. They were, I'd have to go in and get a bunch of fluid taken out of my cavity, like 2 liters or more every couple weeks. I thought I'd have to do that the rest of my life. They said, everything's progressing. If you stay sober, we'll do the transplant. And then about, 3-4 months in, I went back and they said, we have no idea how to explain it. Your liver numbers are normal. Your fatty liver is better. We don't know how to explain it. We've never seen anything like it in a case as bad as yours. All we could say is somebody upstairs was looking out for you.
Amen.
And you don't have to come back anymore. And I'm like, there's miracle number 2,
I can't, I'm fucking covered in goosebumps on this.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We had a girl share a similar jaundice story. If you remember, Jeff, she dropped somebody off at the front door here at 4:30 this afternoon, bringing someone because she's out doing what you're doing because that's what the doctor said. Very similar with the jaundice, and to man, I just like God is fucking great, man. I just can't stop with this shit. It's I am so grateful for you sharing that, man. I mean, and I could go on, and I know we're up against it here, so I want to get a couple questions in about what you're doing now. But when they told you that in the hospital, like, how, I'm like thinking, like, how do you not drop to your knees? I mean, spiritually, you probably did. I can't imagine that feeling.
Yeah, I didn't do it right then, but yeah, right away. I was with the girl that had been helping me, and like I think we both turned to each other, when we got out of the room, and or when the doctors left and started crying. That happened many times. Like there was times where I was struggling financially and like was down to like my last dollar, and then all of a sudden I get a check for $1,000, for doing like a charity thing and not thinking I'd get paid, and then somebody sent me $1,000. There was one time I was fighting for rights to see my 10-year-old, and the court costs were just starting to get overwhelming, and my parents were trying to help me, and the Cardinals called up and said, "Hey, we want you to speak at Christian Day."
Nice.
And I'm like, really? And I'm thinking, well, hopefully they can pay for my hotel and for my gas, And then they're like, yeah, the sponsor, like he gets this, they're going to give you 25 for it. And I'm thinking 2,500, that's awesome. and then they go 25,000. I'm like, what?
Wow.
Are you kidding me? And it was, and it was funny because I had figured out that I needed around $29,000 to fight to see my kid. And then I said, that's unbelievable. And we both started crying, and I was crying on the phone with Joe Pfeiffer from the Cardinals. And then he texts me back, he calls me right back, and he goes, actually, we want you to come and be a manager at fantasy camp. And we're going to pay you $4,000. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like $29,000. That's exactly what I said. It came out of nowhere. And yeah, it's been crazy ever since, word of mouth. Like I do a lot of stuff for free, but some of the things, I get paid for, and not that I'm making tons of money, but, like I'll go to a school. I always try to keep stuff cheap. But, some schools I don't charge, especially some local ones. So some of them are like, hey, yeah, we want to, use grant money to have you in and talk to the kids about drugs and alcohol. And I teach. I've got a lesson coming up at 8. So I'll go 8 to 9. I got to write a speech for University of Illinois Hall of Fame.
I love it.
So that's coming up Friday. But
congrats.
Yeah, it's just it's a miracle. Like it's I always say my story is like a redemption story, like the prodigal son, with my earthly father and my heavenly father. When I came to my dad and said, yeah, I'm struggling, like he was there to forgive me and help me, and it was tough. It like from that 2007, it took until 2018.
11 years. You tried, man. Like I gave one of my closest, longest friends, lost his battle disease 3 summers ago. And I gave one of his eulogies, and he had been to rehab 18 times. And I told his mom that he don't listen to the noise of him being a drug addict or a junkie. That's right. He 18 times is someone that's not a quitter, man. He fucking fought this to the end. That's 18 withdrawals from fucking fentanyl, like 18 medical detox. You have to have medical detox from alcohol or we could die from it. I mean, it's not a picnic. So, I mean, you fought, man.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I did alcohol detox without medical attention.
Whew.
And I was lucky to make it.
Yeah.
And probably dozens of times I did that. And then, the other 12 in rehab, and
sure.
I mean, I don't know how many other times in hospitals I would go get rehabbed and then, detox and then come home.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like it's easy to put a stigma. I was that way when I was younger, and didn't understand. You know, now
Sure.
I have, I understand it. It is a disease. It makes you do stuff that you would never do in a million years if you were yourself. You know, it kind of turns you into a narcissist you know, like I said, you give up everything that is important in your life for, you know, that one thing or those two things, you know, and it overrides everything. And
it's like it takes the place of God, almost like you move God over and put your disease in. It takes the driver's seat from you, from him.
You end up pushing God away. One, because the like you said, it overrides God. But two, because you feel guilt and shame and you feel like you're not worthy to even have a relationship with God. Now, I still would pray and I would still read the Bible here and there. And, you know, it took me a long time. Like, even when I started realizing I wanted to come out of it, I would always isolate. I wouldn't even, I'm in the middle of 47 acres. I wouldn't go outside. My lawn looked like crap. I would believe the devil's lies. Like, you know, you blew your chance. You lost your platform. Nobody wants to hear from you. You're a loser, you know.
Enemy, man.
Yeah. Enemy, fiery darts, you know. And then I started reading the Bible and I started seeing, well, wait a second, you know, I started remembering the story of David. Like, you know, he lusted after his top general's and friend's wife, you know, Bathsheba, and had sex with her and got her pregnant and then brought him in to sleep with her. He wouldn't. So then he sent him back to the front line to die. You know, and after all that, God, you know, he turned to God and said, you know, forgive me, I'm a sinner. And God, you know, eventually said he was a man after his own heart. You know, Paul, crucified Christian, you know, tortured him, put him to death. Moses killed somebody. You know, you go through the Bible and you look and you're like, wait, you know, I said, you know, if God can forgive those guys for things they did, then he can forgive me. And if he can use those guys, then he can use me in some way. You know, I'm not going to write half of the New Testament, right? But
hey, it ain't over yet, brother. You never know, man.
Yeah. So I mean,
man, I could talk for hours about this stuff, especially the faith stuff. And I know you got a lesson coming up. So I am so grateful for your vulnerability here. You're doing coaching, you're doing some lessons now, and you do some speaking tours here in the Midwest. We got to have you down. I'm thinking we got to have you down to IRC to speak to our alumni. They'd love to have you. So next time you're in St. Louis, hit me up. We'd love to treat you to dinner and have you out here. And
for sure. Yeah,
we got some big baseball fans down here.
Get down here on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, if you bring me to the
true. I'm starting a church on Wednesday nights in St. Louis. That's kind of a lot like Celebrate. That we're gonna do, you know, the Jesus stuff from the first hour, and the second hour we'll break out into some love groups. There'll be AA, NA, some ACA stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
It was my way, man. And to your point, got to show people what my experience was and what helped me. And I know, you know, if people come open and humble, and we'll be authentic and all that stuff. So I love what you're doing. And you said you're writing a book. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Yeah. So I actually have a documentary that's done. We're figuring out, we're trying to master the sound. It's really good. It's about 55 minutes long.
Wow.
Some great interviews with, you know, some of my teammates, some of the people in the Angels organization, my dad, mom.
That's going to be powerful, man.
It's super powerful. We got to figure out how to distribute it or how we're going to release it. But the main goal is to help people. And then off of that, we're going to write the book. We're probably at about 40,000 words right now. It's probably going to be 300 pages.
Okay.
Not more. So we're getting into some in-depth stuff. We're right now, I think we've got to, we're getting close to getting into like writing about the Angels. So we still got a long way to go, but we got a lot down. We did touch base on some of that stuff, but we didn't get into real detail from like the Angels on.
Sure.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. So hopefully the documentary will be out in the next month or two.
Oh, wow.
And then That's what the goal is, but you never know. But for sure, somewhere.
Keep us posted so we can, broadcast it to the 7 people that listen to us. We can make sure they get on that.
For sure. And then, and the book I signed with a micro publisher, called CG Sports Publishing, and that way I could have more control over it.
Cool.
They're still pretty small, which is good, because I have access to a lot of, to pretty much all of them. And so does my writer. And both the girl that did the documentary and the writer are both big Christians, and which is great. So it's definitely, both of them are slanted towards, my Christian faith.
Sure.
But cover everything. And that one we're shooting for August of 2026, which would be right before the 20-year reunion for the 2016. So hopefully it, and I think it will be. I think it'll be done by then.
Wow.
And then
that's cool.
Yeah. So it's looking good. I'm lucky to still have, my mom and dad here. My dad went through.
Yeah, I was going to ask how they're doing.
They're doing okay. My mom, she struggles with some of her short-term memory, but she's great. My dad had a stroke, but is coming through it.
Okay.
He'll be 84 on Halloween.
Oh, coming up. All right.
Yeah. I mean, my goal would be to get him to the 67 reunion.
Okay.
He wanted to be at the 64 reunion, but he was only a month out of the stroke.
Okay.
But he was there, like right before his stroke, he was at Cardinal Fantasy Camp with me in full uniform every day, hanging out with Ozzie Smith and the gang. And it was a lot of fun. So it'd be cool to get him back down there.
I absolutely love it. And I'm definitely prayers up for your mom and dad and their health. Praying for you and your recovery. And I'd like to stay in touch, man. This is so inspiring, and we have a lot in common, brother. I mean it.
Thank you. It's been awesome talking with you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. You're making a difference, and hopefully we'll see you down in St. Louis.
You got it, Scott. Hey, real quick before you go, does he need to do something real quick on the?
Yeah, when we hang up, just hang for a second. Make sure your stuff finishes uploading. But it'll awesome. Tell you. It'll tell you.
Scott, thanks again, man. God bless you. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for your vulnerability and keep fighting the fight, brother.
Thanks, you too. So when I push what do I do? Just leave it go for a while?
Yeah, just as soon as I hit stop recording.
All right, go ahead. Let us pray.